Inside your spotlight this morning, we are shining a light on some of the work that's being done by Red Cross to support the islands impacted by Hurricane Beryl. This morning, I want to welcome the acting technical lead of the Disaster Risk Reduction Department. I'm going to call it a department, Ms. Rhea Marie Pierre. Good morning to you, Rhea.
Good morning, August. Thank you for having me, and thank you for having the Red Cross
Not
on
a
your
problem
show.
at all. I mean, we want to learn a little bit more about how this works and how we can be of assistance as well. So firstly, tell me what the process is like when a crisis like this happens, when a disaster like this happens, when a hurricane is on the way. How early does the planning process start for you, your team?
The planning process starts, honestly, it's year-round, because at the International Red Cross, we support the 13 countries within our delegation with preparedness and planning throughout the year.
Right, so that's the whole Caribbean.
That's the Caribbean, more or less, the Dutch and English-speaking Caribbean.
Okay.
And we have preparedness programs that support not only the institution as a Red Cross, as a organization within the country, to within themselves be more prepared as an organization, but also programs that support community-based preparedness. So when you're talking about when do we start, we are always starting. In terms of the immediacy of when an actual event happens, we started monitoring Hurricane Beryl when it was Invest AL 95. So we were putting out information messages from then, because we take the forecast from NOAA, the National Hurricane Center. You would have spoken about it earlier. And on the forecast, there's a likelihood or probability of development that we really look at and we really take a watch. And the historic thing about Beryl, or the unprecedented thing about Beryl, is how quickly it developed. Within 42 hours, was a Category 4 hurricane heading straight for the Caribbean region. So we start that process even before we monitor. Literally, one of the tabs on my computer is that NOAA website that I check with every update.
And you'll continuously check to see what's next and what's coming next.
That is correct.
So all right, so in the 42 hours when it became a Category 4 hurricane, what are the steps that go in place from your side?
So from our side, we make sure we are in contact with all the Red Cross societies in the countries that are projected to be impacted. In this case, I was in Barbados, so I was in contact with the Barbados Red Cross, the Grenada Red Cross, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, at the time, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And of course, as it made its way, its little tour through the Caribbean, we got into contact with the Jamaica Red Cross, and everyone was on alert. That's the first thing. The emergency protocols, not only on our side as the International Federation, but also on the Red Cross in the countryside, all of our emergency protocols are activated, which includes activating our staff and volunteers to be on call. It includes activating the community disaster response teams, because communities are the first responders even before the fire services, any government services, any bigger institutions come in. The communities are the first responders, so we have community first responders in the communities. In Trinidad and Tobago, they're called CERTs. Caribbean Community Emergency Response Teams, and the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross, along with the Ministry of Local Government, supports the response team training. There was a Red Cross representative in every national emergency management agency. They activate something called the NEOC, National Emergency Operating Center, and there was a Red Cross representative in every one of those centers, giving us the information that we need to be able to support an operation longer term.
Yeah, so the role of Red Cross is to assist when it comes to getting ready for a disaster.
Yes.
And then when the disaster hits, you engage your emergency protocols.
That's correct.
And what sort of assistance do you guys offer to the affected countries?
The affected population, one is dependent on the emergency. In this case, obviously, it's a hurricane.
Right.
So what we really make sure to take a look at is what are the impacts, because you don't want to render assistance that's not in line with what's needed. So the first thing we do is actually to do just that, a needs assessment. We also support the national needs assessments in a lot of cases. And as an institution, as an organization, we do the needs assessments. And it's based on those needs assessments. In this case, I mean, it's really devastating and heartbreaking, because we've seen all these countries at their best, and now to experience them at their worst. I mean, the pictures that are shown on this screen,
Did you go to the
beyond words.
Grenadines?
Not as yet. We have someone on the ground right now in the
Okay.
Grenadines, but all of these images are being provided to you by the local Red Cross teams on the ground. They are out there all day, every day, doing their assessments, providing water, hygiene kits, cleaning kits, topplings, kitchen sets, because I mean, people have lost everything, food, water. Uh, they've been doing, I can't even put into words how well they've been doing and how well they've been representing. They've been supporting with evacuation. So, for example, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where Union Island needed to be evacuated, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross is on the ground, not only distributing humanitarian supplies, but also supporting that evacuation process. They were the disabled community. We have a lot of first aid trained personnel on the ground to be able to help with that as well. The same can be said for Grenada in Carriacou. They've been making as many trips as they are able to make, delivering aid as well. We recently had a shipment with the support of our partners throughout the region to deliver, I can't remember who, it's a long packing list, but to deliver aid, it went to Union Island yesterday. There's another shipment going to Carriacou this morning. Should be there in about an hour or so. But the role of the Red Cross on the ground is not only to support the impacted population, but I mean, the laundry list of things that they're doing is just that, from psychosocial support as well, because that, people have lost everything. The images of people literally, the clothes on their back is all they have left. So it's not only about the physical humanitarian aid, but incorporating that psychosocial support and understanding the needs of your community. Because we are part of the community, you're able to connect with people on a different level to provide that support as well.
So, all right. So we have the financial support, we have the material support, we have the psychosocial support. But I've been seeing everybody saying, you know, this one is having a relief a drive, and this one is putting together things. Do we want to encourage more persons to gather things to be able to send across to assist?
Yes and no. From the standpoint of what we tend to forget sometimes is the logistics. Right? All of these items are supremely needed. We will never say no. But we have to remember the logistics. The cost of clearing these items sometimes, where are you going to store them? How are they being distributed, etc. There's something called the humanitarian standard, or the goods to this humanitarian standard. So what we also encourage is to provide cash donations where possible. Not only does it sort of eliminate the logistics part of it, but it also supports the local businesses on the ground, because they have obviously been impacted as well. It also builds, it puts the trust and the power back into the hands of the affected person to decide what they need. And it's part of the dignifying humanitarian aid process. So humanitarian agents, not only at the Red Cross, but that cash assistance has been a key part. So yes, by all means, donate as much as you can physically, but also really consider the cash donations element of it. And of course, like everything else, no matter what, whether it's food, clothing, whatever it is, always do your due diligence in terms of who you're giving these donations to. We will always advocate, of course, to donate via the Red Cross. There's several Red Cross societies, not only the impacted countries that have created individual emergency appeals. So, for example, the Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross has launched on behalf of the impacted population, but also the Grenada Red Cross as an impacted country. So as the Jamaica Red Cross, the St. Lucia Red Cross has launched an appeal on behalf of the impacted countries, as well as the Antigua and Barbuda Red Cross. So I really encourage you to look at the Red Cross social media pages to find the concrete information, because I can't give you the bank details.
Of course, and as I was going to say, so but we can donate directly to the Red Cross. You can
donate directly to the Red Cross. As an international federation, we've also launched an emergency appeal on behalf of these 4 impacted countries. So they cover, right now, it covers Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, and Jamaica. The emergency appeal, we're hoping to be to the tune of 4 million Swiss francs. So you can also donate via that medium as well. we really encourage you to think about other ways of donating aid to sort of eliminate some of the logistics.
Right. I mean, but one of the things, I don't know how it will eliminate the logistics and if it's possible, but you mentioned the psychosocial assistance that people need.
Yeah.
If it is that we have therapists or people who are, trained in that field, that kind of assistance is welcomed as well.
Of course. So
And how can they?
make contact either through us at the International Federation, or you can make contact directly with the Red Cross Society. So you can contact the Grenada Red Cross, the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Red Cross, the Barbados Red Cross, or even the Jamaica Red Cross, if you would like to render your professional services in that way.
And I just want to clarify, because when you say professional services, is there an assumption this is voluntary, or is there an assumption that this is going to be some sort of
Well, in the spirit
stipend?
of humanity.
Right.
In the spirit of humanity, we will hope that you are volunteering your services. So just as an example of how it can work. So when I was in Barbados, because I rode out the storm with the Barbadian public, the Barbados Red Cross actually had a session for the public on psychosocial support.
Okay.
It was about an hour or so, because it was 7 o'clock at night. The storm was expected to start doing its thing at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I went it, and it was really quite helpful in terms of how do we deal with the unexpected. It was something that was new to the public. There was someone on the call who was alone. It was also a disabled person alone on the call. So having that sense of community was very helpful for her. We were also able to take the contact information to follow up, to flag it to the authorities. Listen, I know of this person, X, Y, and Z is the case. So by all means, offering your support in that way is always welcome.
And we need more support in terms of physical labor as well on the ground?
Right now, we have Red Cross teams on the ground. Our network is made up of volunteers. So we do have Red Cross volunteers on the ground. But what is always important to remember is that these volunteers have also likely been impacted. And they are coming out day in, day out in service of humanity without any thoughts of their own.
Right.
So it's always helpful to have more hands on the ground. It's always helpful. I would encourage anyone in any of the islands to go to your local Red Cross and sign up to be a volunteer so that you can support in things like this. We don't always look only for physical hands, but just as you said it just now, sometimes the professional services of volunteerism is what is needed as well.
All right. Rhea, I want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning and for sharing some of this information, because I think it's absolutely necessary, especially in this time, because as we see now, should we be extremely concerned for this hurricane season? Because it now starts, and we don't have a Category 4 passenger already.
It's staggering to think about, to be very honest with you. Hurricane Beryl actually started in June. Granted, the impact was July. Last day of June, but still June.
Yeah.
So yes, and I would also really like to advocate for personal preparedness as well, and your family preparedness. I mean, there are the guidelines, of course, in terms of the different, how much water you should get and stuff like that, but you also need to recognize that those things are expensive, but that this investing in personal preparedness and your family's preparedness is investing in your health, is investing in your safety. Because, I mean, look at what's happening across the region. Communications are down. I have friends in Jamaica, and Jamaica wasn't even directly impacted as some of the other islands.
Yeah.
I have friends in Jamaica. I spoke to one yesterday. Still no electricity, still no water since Wednesday. The similar reality is in St. Vincent, Union Island, Carriacou, Petit Martinique. I mean, it's really amazing. But really advocate on your personal preparedness and your family's preparedness this hurricane season, because as you say, it now starts.
It now starts. And you know, it's kind of scary to think about, because people don't think that climate change is real, but we're seeing the impact of it.
We live climate change every day. We live the realities of climate change every day. When you were growing up, you ever remember it being so hot?
No, it definitely wasn't. It
Right?
definitely wasn't.
And I mean, climate change has taken us from a reality where all of these impacted countries, by the way, reported a drought not 2 months before.
Wow.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, we launched an operation to support the Grenadian public in the drought. And less than 2 months later, they have been devastated by a hurricane. literally in the blink of a hurricane's eye.
So we just have to take these things into consideration. We see the signs leading up to it, and sometimes we don't realize what's about to happen.
Yeah.
But the climate change is real, and your assistance is also real, and you can definitely do your part. Reach out to your local Red Cross, the Red Cross in Trinidad and Tobago, whichever island you're looking at us from. You can reach out to them and offer your assistance, be it professional, be it physical, be it financial. Offer your assistance. Rhea, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for the work that you and the entire team at the Red Cross have been doing.
And thank you so much for having us. And I really need to send a big shout out to all of those Red Cross volunteers on the ground who, without regard for their own safety, without regard for their own situations, go out each and every single day in service of humanity and to support their impacted populations. They are the real heroes on the ground.
Most definitely. Guys, we take a quick break and come back with more on the Now Morning Show. Stick around.